Starting off with the worst win condition in Clash Royale, we got the Three Musketeers, which are going right in F tier. They are just simply too expensive at 9 elixir and way too vulnerable to spells, and also they have a hard time having good synergy in a lot of decks. Next up is going to be the newly added Suspicious Bush. The problem with the bush is all the spells are able to remove the bush, and if you spell the bush quickly, which oftentimes people do, the goblins don't even end up reaching the tower. They die before they do. And also, all the buildings in the game, for the most part, are a reliable counter to the bush as well, so it's just not a reliable win condition to have in your deck. The Skeleton Barrel is similar to the bush in that way, where spells are going to easily be able to take it out. Now, you can use the Skeleton Barrel if you want inside of Mortar bait, but it's not really a good idea to have it be your main win condition. You're definitely going to need some others alongside with it. We're going to close out F tier with the Sparky. The problem with the Sparky is there are just way too many counters to it. Of course, there's things like the Rocket and the Lightning, but there's a bunch of other stuns in the game, and it can be pretty hard for you to get a Sparky connection in a lot of matches, which is why you always have to pair the Sparky with another win condition like a Giant or a Goblin Giant in order for it to be effective. We're going to start off C tier with the Battle Ram, and just a note, I'm talking about the regular Battle Ram, not the Evolved one. The regular Battle Ram is going to be pretty easy to stop with stuns and also buildings, so in a lot of matchups, it can be pretty difficult for it to reach the tower, but it does pair pretty well with the P.E.K.K.A. Next is going to be the Golem. Recently, Golem has been struggling ever since the Elixir Collector has gotten worse and worse with the addition of the Void. The Golem has just simply not been the same because it pairs very well with the Elixir Collector. When it's pretty bad, the Golem itself is going to be pretty bad. And at 8 Elixir, it's pretty expensive, so it can be pretty hard to get good Golem pushes going, and it can be hard to fit it in your deck as well. The regular Goblin Giant is also going in C tier. It just has never been the same ever since it got those nerfs a little while ago. And also, nowadays, when people are running the Goblin Giant, they're almost always running the Evolved version that gets more value, because the regular version is just weak in a lot of situations, and it's really hard to get through buildings and reach the tower a lot. The Expo will also be joining them in C tier. The Expo is a card that always seems to fluctuate every meta, but currently there's a lot of tanks in the game that are pretty good against the Expo, and also the newly added Void spell is amazing against it as well, and ever since then it has struggled a lot more, so it is currently a below average win condition. And we'll be closing out C tier with the Electro Giant. There are just a lot of good buildings in the meta which do good against it, and also P.E.K.K.A. has made a return, which is really good against the E-Giant as well, so currently it is not in the most amazing spot. We'll be beginning B tier with the Elixir Golem. This used to be one of the worst win conditions in the game, but now that the Void is in the game, as well as the Evolved Wizard, which pair very well with the Elixir Golem, it has made a return, and now it is about an average win condition in the game, which may be hard to believe for some people. The regular Goblin Barrels going in B tier. Bait has made a bit of a comeback ever since the Dagger Duchess got a nerf. Bait is viable and in a somewhat decent spot again, so you see a lot of people running the Goblin Barrel, especially in the typical bait decks that you see. Royal Hogs will be going in B tier. Honestly, when I think of win conditions, the Royal Hogs would cross my mind as one of the most average win conditions I can think of. They can be pretty good on offense. You can play them in one lane, you can split them if you want, but they have a lot of counters as well. Things like Mega Knight, Fireball, splash cards. You can use Recruit Hogs or Pig Cycle. I just think they're overall pretty balanced. The regular wall breakers are going in B tier. They used to be one of the best win conditions in the game, but I feel like recently they've been toned down a bit. There's so many people running small spells that deal with them with ease, and also buildings, and I think people have learned how to defend them a lot better, so they're not as overpowered as they used to be. The Miners going in B tier. Now, hear me out, because I know a lot of people think the Miner's very good, but this is a win condition tier list, so I'm talking about Miner in the sense of a win condition, and the Miner is not going to be a reliable win condition on its own. You're going to need to pair it with a Giant, with a Lava Hound, a Balloon, a Mortar, something else, but he is a very, very good secondary win condition, don't get me wrong. The regular mortar is going in B tier. Used to be one of the strongest win conditions in the game, but kind of like the Expo, there's a lot of tanks, there's a lot of effective ways to stop it from reaching your tower, and the standard mortar is just a lot easier to deal with than the Evolved Mortar, so I kind of consider it to be an average win condition at the moment, but you can use it defensively too, which kind of makes it interesting considering it's a win condition, but you can also use it on defense too. The regular Goblin Drill is going to be going in B tier. I think it's just significantly easier to deal with compared to the Evolved Goblin Drill. There's a lot of splash cards in the game that take out the drill fairly easily, but it's pretty matchup dependent because maybe you're running a deck that doesn't have a good counter to the drill, and then it's pretty obnoxious. And lastly, we will close B tier out with the Lava Hound. Now, the Lava Hound is very good, but I think it's only B tier as a win condition because you need to pair the Lava Hound with another win condition just like the Miner. That's why you often see people have Lava Hound with the Balloon or Lava Hound with the Miner, so you have an additional way to get damage because the Lava Hound itself doesn't deal a lot of damage to towers. We'll begin A tier with the Ram Rider. She's definitely an above average win condition now ever since she got that buff where she charges quicker. When you're using her on offense, it's definitely harder to deal with her. And kind of like the Mortar, she's kind of a unique win condition in the sense that you can also use her defensively when you want as well against things like the Balloon. Now, obviously, that doesn't count about her being a win condition, but it's a nice little bonus that she has. The Evolved Goblin Barrel is going in A tier. It is definitely a bit better than the regular Goblin Barrel because obviously you're getting a second barrel, so it's pretty much a guarantee that it's going to be better. Now, obviously, it's not guaranteed value, which is why I don't have it in S tier because sometimes it can just be ignored, and also you know where the fake one is going to be if you're paying attention, and I think that's what prevents it from being super broken and having it in S tier, because if you know where it is, then it's easier to counter for sure. The Evolved Battle Ram is also going in A tier, significantly better than the regular Battle Ram. I mean, oh my goodness, it is not even close. It just charges through everything, it bounces off buildings, and it is significantly easier to get it to reach the tower. But because there's really strong buildings in the game, like the Evolved Tesla and stuns, I think that's what keeps it out of S tier and why it's not currently one of the best evolutions in the game at the moment. The Giant's going in A tier. Recently, he has been one of the strongest win conditions in the game. There's been so many people running Giant Graveyard, also Giant with the Prince after the Prince buff, and even Giant Balloon. I've been seeing a fairly versatile win condition. I don't think he is extremely strong on his own, but because of his versatility and the amount of health he has, he just combos so well with things, and I do think he's a very solid win condition overall. The Royal Giant's going to be going in A tier as well. I think it has been a very consistent win condition for a bit of time, and actually the regular Royal Giant recently got a 3 or 4% health buff, which has helped him out as well, have some interactions go his way. And I just think overall, no matter what the meta is, you can pretty much always make the Royal Giant work. The Evolved Goblin Giant is going in A tier. It's just like the Evolved Battle Ram. The Evolved version of the Gob Giant is just significantly better than the regular version. Everyone running the Gob Giant has the Evolved version at the top of ladder and competitive. They are not using the regular version. They always got the Evolved because it's a one cycle evolution, and the Evolved one at 50% health spawns goblins. Now, that's not guaranteed value, which is why I don't think it's S tier, because if you're running into a splash deck or a splash building, like maybe a bomb tower or a wizard, of course the goblins coming out behind aren't really going to get any value. But let's say you're running into a P.E.K.K.A. or something that can only target one thing at once. Those goblins are getting so much value in a lot of situations, definitely making it a way better win condition. The last one going in A tier is going to be the Evolved Wall Breakers. They are just way better than the regular Wall Breakers because the Evolved Wall Breakers you cannot really ignore. They just deal more damage, and they are just pretty obnoxious because when they're split, they can be hard to stop as well, and they're just basically the Wall Breakers, but better. That's pretty much the best way to explain it in simple terms, which is why I think they are for sure a tier higher than the regular wall breakers. We're going to start off S tier with the balloon. Definitely one of the strongest win conditions in the game, and I feel like it has been one that has been consistently one of the strongest for a long time. I think what makes it better than the Lava Hound is it is actually a win condition in almost all circumstances where it's played, and you can also use it with only support cards. It doesn't require another win condition. For example, in Lumberloon Freeze, you pair it with the Lumberjack, which is a support card, and the balloon itself is the win condition that deals all the damage. And if you don't have a reliable air counter to the balloon, it can be so annoying for you to deal with in a lot of matchups. Of course, it pairs very well with the Lava Hound, and you can also pair it with the Miner, so a lot of decks you can use the balloon in. The next one going in S tier is going to be the Hog Rider. Just like the balloon, it has been a very consistent win condition for a long time. And just like the balloon, the Hog Rider does not require another win condition in the deck. That's why you see decks like Hog EQ, 2.6, where the hog is the win condition. It is what you're using to get damage combined with spells and the support cards like the Ice Golem, the Mighty Miner, the Firecracker, for example, and you have a really rough time defending the Hog Rider if you don't have a Tornado, a Fisherman, or some sort of building, and even if you have that, you can often get outcycled. The last non-evolution win condition going in S tier is going to be the Graveyard, another one that for a long time has been one of the strongest win conditions in the game. Even if you're running Graveyard and you're against a Mother Witch or a Poison, you can work your way around it by either outcycling or because of the RNG from the Graveyard, you might still get some damage from the skeletons anyway. It of course can be used inside a Splash Yard. You can use Graveyard Freeze as well. You can use even Giant Graveyard. There are so many different combinations of Graveyard you can play, making it very versatile. The Evolved Royal Giant is going in S tier. You can basically think of it as the regular Royal Giant, which is already an above average win condition, but even better because it has that knockback effect. So let's say you're playing Barbarians or a Mini P.E.K.K.A. on top of the Evolved Royal Giant. It's going to knock it back, keep resetting it, which means the RG is going to be able to get more damage on the tower. So it often forces your opponent into awkward cycles, or they're forced to use something else on the Royal Giant that they otherwise wouldn't have had to use if it was a regular one. So maybe they're forced to use their building or really make sure they have their building in cycle, which can be pretty annoying sometimes. And the Evolved Mortar is obviously going in S tier too. It is significantly better than the regular mortar because not only is it firing a goblin every single shot, it also has a faster fire rate, which means it's shooting more frequently as well, just getting significantly more value. Of course, you can use it on defense, which is kind of an added bonus, but we're referring to it as a win condition itself. It gets a lot of pressure in for only 4 elixir, and if you ignore an Evolved Mortar, it basically will take your whole tower, so it forces you to respond, and if you have a bad cycle, you are definitely in a lot of trouble. And last, but certainly not least, the best win condition in the game at the moment, in my opinion, is the Evolved Goblin Drill. Now, in the last set of balance changes, they took a Goblin away from the second drill spawning, but that has hardly done anything in my opinion. The fact that the drill spawns 3 times and each time it's spawning it's dealing damage to the tower, forcing you to have to drop another unit maybe. If the one you dropped is too far away from the drill when it's respawning, you have to overcommit. If you're in a bad cycle, you might take a lot of damage, and it really feels like in a lot of situations one evolved drill can change the whole flow of the game, and it just gets a lot of value and definitely might need another nerf soon. Let me know what you guys think of my tier list. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like. You guys can subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. You can use creator code BOSS to support me in any Supercell game. And thanks again until next time, guys.